Welcome to Shorty SuperCoach, and welcome to an extremely worn out and absolutely buggered Shorty. We'll be talking SuperCoach in a moment, so if that's what you're here for, the content of SuperCoach, then you might just want to skip ahead a little bit. But Shorty was away on a little trip with the lads over the weekend in Sydney, so man, I'm absolutely feeling it. You know when you feel like your body just kind of holds it together for a few days, you know, you're away, you're having some big nights, but you find a way, and then you get back, and it's like your body goes, well, I got you through what you need to, mate, now you're going to suffer. I woke up this morning, I'm like, oh man, I'm feeling it, and not only, we caught the plane in, landed about 10:30 last night, and in theory, you just get home and you go straight to bed. Not when one of the biggest Ashes matches is fucking on, man. You sit up till 2 a.m. watching the Aussies get it done, mate. That's what it's about. So I may be a little bit self-inflicted pain here, but it was worth it. And I'm going to give you the full rundown on Shorty's Sydney trip. It's going to be a little two-parter, a little part one, part two. Otherwise, we're talking for ages. So I went there from Thursday to Sunday. So you'll get Thursday and Friday's events over the coming minutes. But just first, how good was the cricket, mate? How good were the Aussies? And hey, Johnny Bairstow, mate, just stay in your crease, brother. That might have not seen you get run out or stumped, whatever you want to call it. Gee, the Poms making a big fuss about it. They're not exactly angels, mate. Bairstow throwing the stumps down himself at Labuschagne, and Stuart Broadblade nicking one, smacking the cover off it, not even walking. And I understand you don't always have to walk, but jeez, they're no angels, those Poms. And I've watched it a few times, and you know, without bias, Bairstow for a few balls prior, he was just doing that, just walking out. No sort of delay, no hesitancy. He just walked straight out. And yeah, look, the only thing that doesn't sit super well for me is that it wasn't like he was trying to gain any advantage in the game. So it wasn't like he was trying to take a run or position himself outside the crease to upset the bowler or anything. It kind of felt a bit weird like that, but it's part of the rules, mate. You can't just leave your crease willy-nilly and not expect something to happen, particularly when you've been doing it for ages. Carey did it one motion. It wasn't like he waited. The over hadn't been called. So, Poms, you're 2-0 down, mate. You can suck eggs as far as I'm concerned. That was beautiful. I was getting so worried. I was fuming. I was going off in my lounge room like a nutcase when the tactics to Stokes and the field play. So, I don't know. In hindsight, they probably did well because they won and they got that top edge that they were hanging out for. But I was having all sorts of PTSD from when Stokesy took them all the way in that other test match. I was like, come on, I don't need this. I just want to wake up on Monday a happy man, go for a drive, listen to all the talkback radio after an Aussie win. But nah, Poms, you can go and get stuffed. So let's carry it on, shall we? But let's talk Sydney trip. And it was a ripper trip. Had a great time. A good mix between absolutely getting on the sauce and finding some time to actually see a few things that Sydney has to offer. So when did we get there? We left somewhat early, sort of Thursday morning, and got there all good. We stayed in a hostel, you know, try and find those budget items when you can, mate. Gives you a bit more coin to spend elsewhere. The old bunk bed arrangement is something I haven't done for a while, but it was 2 rooms, adjoining rooms, 1 main room, and there was 5 of us fellas, so one guy got that, and then the other 4 blokes in the other room, 2 bunk beds, top and bottom. Oh, gee, it was an absolute throwback, just talking shit when you're going to sleep and stuff. It was good fun, but we thought, look, first night, you know, maybe a Thursday, but Sydney will have something for us to go to, surely. So it was a tradition for these boys because I've met them through tennis and a few other mutual friends, and they've been away together a few times before, and tradition is it's a cruiser night, first night for them. So I was all for that, mate. We went and got the 10-pack of cruisers, another one of those, chucked it. We didn't have a fridge in our room, so we've gone to bloody Mitre 10, bought one of those, you know, elastic sort of bucket things, chucked a bag of ice in that. It's the rarest setup you'll see. Thrown the cruisers in there. We had some Suntories in there too, playing all these new drinking games. It was bloody good fun. And then we thought, well, look, we'll go out for dinner. We'll go down to Circular Quay, just eat right next to Sydney Opera House. It was quite lovely. It was pretty cold, mate. I mean, I guess it is that time of year, but oh man, I was trying to look fresh, but sometimes when you look fresh, you do forego a little bit of comfort. And man, I was cold. I was real cold. Anyway, we were vibing pretty well. We were going out and, have a few drinks and things were rolling. But trying to find a place that was going off was proving extremely difficult. At that point, we thought, look, let's just find a place where the footy's on, the cricket's on. We'll sink some drinks, watch the sport, see where we end up. And we ended up we typed in, where can you watch the footy? The AFL in New South Wales, which pubs have those on. It took us back to this other joint. Like, we got on the tram and went all the way back out of Circular Quay to this pub. It was dead, mate. Absolutely dead. They didn't have the footy on. We had to get them to turn it on. And they put us in this sports bar bit. They were 3 levels. I thought, cool, awesome. Put us on that second level, mate. Sports bar. I walked in. No one in there. No one in there. It looks like it'd be an amazing setup if it was going off. No one. So we had a drink. My mate accidentally spilled his beer all over the table. We were like, it's time to fucking get out of here, I think. We even tried to get on the rooftop. Rooftop looked great. Sorry, guys. Bookings only. Fuck. All right. We're off. And it was proving difficult. We went all the way back to Circular Quay and tried a couple of places, Googled this, Googled that. That's not open. We're walking down the street. This one ain't open. My mate had a friend who used to live in Sydney, gets him on the blower. Yep, go here, here, and here. Walk into this place. Straight up gay bar. And hey, I got nothing against that, but it was a different vibe in there. There was like drag karaoke or something going on. There was random quiz questions, and I'm like, these aren't the bangers Shorty needs, mate. I need some absolute filthy bootlegs right about now. So we leave there, and the other place was shut. We're thinking, it might not be it tonight. We've had a bit of fun. First night, great pre-drinks. This might be it. Anyway, we must have either Googled or asked someone, and they said Ivy. Ivy's the place to go. So we go all the way back to where we need to be. We're looking around for Ivy. We're like, where the hell is this joint? We're Google mapping it, and we're getting directions. You take the left and the next left. We're like, are we going crazy here? Where is it? So we walked past it. Ivy was actually down this laneway through this other bit. And you know how you normally pay entry to like a club? Ivy was like this, like a, Jesus Christ, excuse me, like a complex. Like, you'd pay entry and you could go to a restaurant and some other bar and the nightclub. Which proved fairly dangerous. That provided the absolute goods. How we go for time here? I might just reset this one. But the energy levels were starting to lull. The motivation to really hit it was starting to go. I nearly conceded the big night was over, but fortunately, Ivy did deliver. You know, when you're walking around and you're looking for a good night spot and you're not really getting it, and then you walk up to one joint and you can hear the tunes, you can hear the atmosphere, just that dull, you're like, hello, daddy, what have we got on here? And walked up the stairs, walked in, place was going off. It was like 10 o'clock at this point, so we're a bit early, because that was called Ivy Thursdays, and we thought, man, if a venue's committing itself to Thursdays, it has to be good. And it was. It was 2-story. The top story wasn't open just yet, but it eventually did. The upstairs bit went off, and oh yeah, right in the wheelhouse for Shorty's tunes. And it was weird because we almost walked in there sober. That was the weird thing, like, because we'd been drinking, but the vibe wasn't there. And when the vibe's not there, it's almost like the alcohol just doesn't really work. And walked in, I was like, this is lit, but we are behind the pack here, so let's get a couple of vodka raspberries, mate. I went up to the bartender. He's like, oh, do you want a second shot for half price? I was like, yes. Yes, I do, actually. You have upsold me very well. We'll do that. Maduri pineapples were flowing, mate, the vodka Red Bull. And even still, the first hour or so, I was a bit like, I wasn't quite into it. I don't know why. I was just kind of like sitting upstairs with me mates and we were just chatting. Like, I was like, fuck, I'm struggling to get into this. Like, feeling a bit like out of it. But, the drinks kicked in. The vibe really got going because it built from there. Like, it was busy at 10 o'clock, but it got even busier by the time midnight rolled around. And by the time midnight rolled around, like, yeah, things were vibing. We're just not giving a fuck, and things were going great. So it was a ripper night. Yeah, it was mainly me and Fish and Cov just, having a great time. We lost Keenan. Don't know where he went. He reckons he was looking for us for a couple of hours. Didn't bump into him. And Brad ducked off home, and he, I think he was pretty buggered. It was Brad, but yeah, the upstairs bit was good. Pretty vibey company, some good atmosphere there. And yeah, I reckon it was about 3 o'clock. We ended up rolling home. And all the boys got home at like different stages, like different parts of the night. It was bloody funny, just hearing what everyone's been up to. And then, like, I'll get home. It must have been about 3:30, and me and Keenan are just watching the cricket, and I think that finished up. And then I'm just on TikTok, and every now and then, because I go live, like other people's lives will pop up. And he's like, "Oh, what's that?" Or I was like, "Oh, it's live. Like people go live. I go live." He's like, "Yeah, I've never really watched it." Watching them and chatting shit, and one thing led to another, and all of a sudden, Shorty SuperCoach. Jesus, the voice is struggling, but all of a sudden, Shorty SuperCoach is live at about 4 a.m. in a random hostel, talking shit for 35 minutes. I get, like, at one point, there's 15 people watching us just talking crap. Oh man! So if you were lucky enough to jump on and see that utter trash, then consider yourself lucky or maybe unlucky. I don't really know, but man, it was a good night. And one of the boys, he actually didn't return to the hostel, the naughty little boy, but very saucy activity from that young individual who I won't name, but unspeakable things were done, and it did provide a fair bit of content and story time for the boys for the remainder of the trip, which is what it's all about. He ended up trekking like, I reckon 45, 50 minutes walking from the other side of town to find our hostel, but fair to say we were a little bit dusty the next day, which leads me into Friday as to why it was a pretty chill day. We didn't do much. Went to Sydney Harbour Bridge, walked across it, went to Kirribilli House. It was kind of cool, actually. I'm not always a big one for those sort of things, but I was like, shit, this is pretty cool, actually. Ate some good food, and look, we were going to the footy that night because obviously that was what the main part of the trip was, going to Geelong, Sydney. Watched on for the Cats. Weird game, like a draw. It was weird. Great atmosphere, great seats. Like we were row C, right on the wing. Wasn't a pretty match, and a bit torn on what I sort of felt about the result, because felt like we should have been out of it. Like Sydney kicked terribly, felt like we could have been gone. But then when we did actually get on top and get in front, I felt like we butchered our own opportunities and probably should have won. But I think all in all, honestly, we'll take a draw, because it really could have been a loss. There's no doubt about that. And but yeah, my mate Langers, he works for the footy club and was an absolute wizard. He caught up with him half time and was able to give me a wristband to get in the rooms after the game. And I'm thinking, fuck, if we lose, I don't know if I'm going to go in here. But I thought if we win, I will. And then it was a draw. I was like, you don't get this opportunity very often. So I went down to the rooms, which took me a lifetime to find it. Man, the amount of people that had no idea where it was. I'm talking to officials. I'm like, bro, where is it? I've got this once in a fucking whatever opportunity to do it. Show me where I need to go. Eventually got down there, and on the way there, I got a, hey, Shorty. So I don't know if, I'm thinking it must have been like someone who watches the channel. So, hey, if you're out there and you're watching from Sydney, mate, and you say g'day, thank you very much. But then, yeah, I went to the rooms, got a photo with Tommy Hawkins, and, it wasn't much going around. Like, players just talking to their families, but it's just kind of cool to just be down there, and you're like, wow, here we go. Inner sanctum Shorty here. But, and just went home and, watched the cricket, chilled out, talked some shit. So it was the chill night we needed, because clearly next night on Saturday was not going to be chill, and it proved exactly that. So, but that will be a story for part 2 on Thursday night. I think so. So, stay tuned for that. But a bit of an extra little story time there for you. I know I like to throw in the odd little tidbit here and there, but I thought when Shorty's away for a little lads trip, we're going to have to throw in a big story. But if that hasn't been your cup of tea and you've skipped through, well, here you go. Here's your SuperCoach content. And I don't feel great about the SuperCoach score here. I barely looked at it, but Cov was saying it was a big week for a lot of people. And I had like Darcy Cameron not exactly firing. I didn't land my C. So I get the sense I'm going to drop in rank. But I've been wrong before. I'm hoping not too much damage done. Obviously, another week holding Sicily. Malik in 85 certainly helped me out. But yeah, we'll be going live on Wednesday as we always do to take your questions. That got to do the quiz today, so it'd be fantastic if this could just load. It always takes fucking ages to load the SuperCoach site for some reason. Don't know why, but yeah, I feel as if my team is going well and is set up okay, but it's just not quite slapping at the moment. I think I'm just a smidgen behind some of the top teams, which I think will reflect in a move down the ranks, and yes, it will. So 2-4-1-1, ranked just outside the top 7,000. So we moved down 7,000 spots. 1,000 spots, but about 5,000 in 2 weeks after last week's brutal loss. To win 6 leagues is still not too bad with that kind of a score. Let's take a look. I think one of the big calls is obviously Darcy Cameron versus Ben Keys is not working. That's proving a bit rough. So obviously Sicily, Malikin's 85 you'll take. Dacos was great. Stewart, massive second half. That was great. Dawson was rock solid. Sinclair, good. And Luke Ryan, I actually thought watching the game earlier, I thought he was going to go bigger than that, but 97, you certainly take. Josh Dunkley, I think it was some calf or hamstring awareness or something. So watch this space. I certainly cannot afford to have too many concerns with where my trade situation is at. Bontempelli started slow, but certainly worked in the game and had a big influence. A solid captain score without anything too great. Rory Laird, not his finest. 24 touches, hurt in more ways than one. As a beautiful same-game multi came undone with him not getting to 25. And Taylor Adams stitched me up as well. He'd been finding a bit of the footy, even in a new role, but I just had him for 15, mate. Got 14. So those two screwed 2 of me multis, man. But Neil, really good. Brayshaw, not so good. You really need him to be tunning up. 80's not a disgrace, but certainly not that good. Tommy Green, very good. Sam Walsh brought him in. Solid. Thought he played well. Not exactly reflected in the score. And Jack Steele, again, it's just not quite happening. What did Callum Mills score? I feel like Mills didn't really kill us, but I don't know. I'd love to have a scenario where I could emergency loophole Steele or Mills. I feel like both of them are so capable, but just not vibing at the moment. So 106. So I just feel like it'd be nice to have the option. So his break even will still be somewhat high. Okay, it's not. So he's 404. Yeah, right. Interesting. Very interesting. So, anyway, we'll keep talking to SuperCoach and then think about the trades. Timmy English, Rowan Marshall, very good, very solid. I know a lot of people are trading out Marshall for Briggs, and I just wasn't about that. And it's not just to try and be a captain hero because Marshall outscored him this week, but I just felt like Briggs, the chance of him potentially getting tired or needing a rest or needing a chop out, because he's only been a main man ruck for 8 to 10 weeks. So the potential for a Bruce or Flynn or someone to give him a chop out later in the year, as opposed to a Marshall who was the main guy for many years or capable of being a main guy for many years, makes me a little bit concerned. But we have Briggs at 597. 497, sorry, and old mate Zach Butters watching the game semi-closely, not super closely. I felt like he was good without being best on. 25 touches, 109. Perfect, mate. That's all we need. So he drops to 604, and I reckon he is at about the time to probably swallow him up for a trade. Which I think will be doable. Yes, it'll just be doable from Kieran Briggs. Taranto, wow, that's probably the first time I've looked at Taranto and been like, that's not the best. But Rosie was outstanding. McRae just finds the ball even though it's not his ideal position. Did get a few more centre bounces from what I saw. Cornelio, Cornelio and Cameron are just guys that aren't quite going, particularly Cornelio. He's good without being great. He's never going to put in a poor game, but I just think his 120 pluses are gone at the moment. And Cameron, that was probably his first poor game in a while. Up against Witts, it looked like Witts didn't dominate himself, but I'm not sure what happened. I didn't catch that game. Windhager was solid. You'll take a 60 plus from a guy like him. So yeah, that's my score. I'm obviously in that weird situation where it gets this time of year and a lot of teams have full primo sides, and I'm 2 down on that, and I'm a week away from it anyway with Sicily. So I think I've just got to hold on for a week or 2. Look, I think what I'll do is this week I will trade Briggs to Butters and bring him in. I know Butters is a break-even 135, but I just need a preference to points now. And we know Butters can score 135. There's no point for going potentially 80 points versus Windhager to save 10 grand. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's worth it. Sometimes not so much. Josh Dunkley, I really need to play. So, yeah, I'm happy with my team. I really am. The Ben Keys versus Darcy Cameron is far from ideal. I'm just so used to going to the stats. I don't need his stats. I just need an injury update. Doesn't really give me anything to... Probably if I looked into one of those articles, it might tell me, but I'm not going to bore you with that. So, yeah, is Sam Walsh and Jack Steele top 10 to 12 mids? Unsure. I know Steele's not. I've got faith in Walsh bouncing back. You know, I don't have Zach Merritt. That hurts. Cornelio and Cameron. I wouldn't change the thing. I would always go Cameron over Keys at the time because I was unsure on the stability around Keys' position versus Cameron, but more so was the forward ruck eligibility or dual position, because I think I'll need it at some stage. So, really happy with my back line. Like, I genuinely feel like that you could mount a case for those guys are like the top 6, aside from maybe Caleb Daniel had a slightly quieter one on the weekend. And I've got some of the big dogs in the midfield. Clayton Oliver, of course, has moved out of that way of conversation. But yeah, there will be options. I don't think I'll be in a position to bring in a Mills anytime soon. But if you've got a little bit of extra cash, you might be able to get a sneaky M9 Callum Mills, or Tuke Miller might come at a really good time in 2-3 weeks for you. But yeah, happy with my team. Still in the top 10k, which, you want to be more in the top 3 or 4k. But I've still got a bit of faith that I'll have a complete team by the end of this week. Sicily can return. And yeah, I think we'll be okay. As long as I don't get too many unexpected injuries, I think we'll be okay to have a respectable ranking at the end of the year. So there we go. But anyway, that is a wrap. That is one of my longer videos. But I hope you enjoyed a bit of a recap on Shorty's weekend. I know there's some of you out there who really enjoy the other side of the channel, which is not so much SuperCoach, but just talking a bit of shit and getting a bit of an insight to Shorty's antics that he gets up to. So hopefully you enjoyed that. I'll be back on Wednesday, going live, and of course Thursday. And if you haven't got around the TikTok either, feel free to. You get similar content, but I do put up a few shorts on the goal kicking and stuff like that. So, even Shorty making an eagle, but which doesn't happen very often. In fact, it was the first time ever. But yeah, I was actually, in the time we were waiting for the airport, it gave me a bit of a chance to just do a bit of editing on a few goal kicking videos for my TikTok. But anyway, I better wrap it up. I'll talk to you guys soon. Have a good week. Cheers.